Hello, welcome back to Ireland AM. Now our next guest is an activist, broadcaster and TV personality whose new book, Still Beautiful, is teaching us that it's time to challenge the stereotypes surrounding women and ageing.
Good on you. We're delighted to welcome Katie Piper to the show. Good morning to you, Katie.
Morning, lovely to see you. I got the memo about the bright clothes.
Bright clothes, not quite pink, no, but listen, we're pretty impressed with that. And I believe you travel on public transport as well, so you're really following the show.
I do. I love the tube in London. Yeah, that's right.
There you have it. Listen, thanks so much for joining us. And congratulations. Like, you are a busy woman, but you've got a new book. It is, of course, called Still Beautiful. Why is the time right now to bring that out?
I started writing the book when I was just about to turn 40, and I was kind of reflecting on youth and aging and living longer and people's reactions to women entering that decade. And the book is really about reclaiming the narrative, because women are told every single day from various different messages that our value lies in being young, in being beautiful. And in this new book, I unpack that pressure, the pressure that we put on women to stay youthful, to be perfect, and how to be worthy of any kind of love or success or visibility, they need to tick those boxes.
Katie, your perspective on beauty is very different from an awful lot of people, because you've acknowledged and you've said before about you had the privilege of beauty up until you were 24 years old and you suffered the horrific acid attack that changed your life, essentially. But in this, it is about, you just mentioned there, the privilege of it. So from your point of view, what is it that society is putting on women? Like, what's different? Why is it so much about beauty? And what have you learned from your years?
I feel like we're really conditioned to believe that it's our currency, and that when we lose it, we somehow lose our value. And like you said, through my own experiences at a very young age, I found that not to be true at all. We're not worthless if we go through trauma, if we age, if life suddenly changes. In fact, our power was never in our face or our body. Our power is in our voice, our story, and our resilience.
Do you think it seems to be with social media in particular is making this much more difficult as well for young people? They're constantly bombarded with beauty pages, with celebrities, all putting on this perfect filter of how wonderful their life is. How can you possibly change that when people are addicted to their phones and this is the message that just keeps getting repeated to them?
Yeah, I think you make a good point, and it sort of illustrates that beauty is this moving target. And that's not about empowerment at all. That's actually about control. It's keeping you in a place of insecurity. And we know when we're insecure, we become consumers because we buy fast fashion, we buy beauty products. And if we chase beauty and youth according to the world's rules, we'll always lose. We'll always be in a place of disappointment.
Katie, do you think, because there's more and more women as they're getting older that are front and centre, that are talking about these things that perhaps mightn't have been there 20, 30, 40 years ago? Now, people at the top of their games, whether it be in tech, in the beauty industry, in television, in all that kind of stuff. You write about taking up space in your book. Do you find that people are genuinely doing it, or we're talking about it while still diminishing ourselves?
I definitely think you're right that things are actually getting better and there is more visibility, there is more role models. And I do think actually even younger generation are coming to that understanding that your body and your face is not your only source of worth. And I think this is why I wanted to explore it further in a book and really go in depth with it. And I suppose invite people to look at themselves differently. And I think more importantly, to be more kind to yourself. And I think this isn't just a book for women, because it's a book for men as well, because what is feminism without men? Men are our allies and we're in this together. And I think certainly, you know, I'm married and I'm happy, I have children, and being in a relationship that doesn't hold one another to unrealistic beauty standards is really liberating. Like, it's actually a sense of freedom and true love.
Well, what do you mean by take up the space?
I think really right from childhood, young girls are taught to not cause a fuss, not not make a scene, not make a noise, and really to sort of shrink themselves and to be very palatable. And emotions like anger or rage are demonized for women and have negative connotations. And I think progressive society is now saying it's okay to take up space. You don't need to shrink yourself to make other people feel comfortable. You don't need to be a glamorous accessory to elevate somebody else.
Katie, we're talking across the world an awful lot over the past few years, and it's something that you have a unique experience on as well, about the issues of people in relationships, about online vitriol towards women. You know, it does appear to be increasing, whether it's done by troll farms or actual individuals hiding behind anonymous accounts. And, you know, femicide rates across the world, they are not getting better. Violence against women is not getting better. They're things that you have been, you know, you've suffered at the hands of those things, of someone that you've been in a relationship, someone you've been in a relationship with. What's your view on the world? Do you think things will get better, that this sort of this gender fight that appears to be happening, do you think it's going to get better?
It's a very deep question. I mean, I don't have any kind of data in front of me around the stats of domestic violence, but I think you're right. Just from sort of snippets that I've seen, it feels like there's an increase. And also we have to remember that lots of domestic violence goes unreported, so it's a very difficult thing to get factual data for. I think certainly we're sharing more than ever, so we see things on different platforms, so it can feel a lot more worse and intense. But I mean, I thought the recent Netflix drama Adolescence was a really important piece of television, and I think that kind of emphasizes that these things start very young. The misogyny and the opinions around women, the women in our families, our lives, how we communicate with them and how we treat them. And I suppose what it shows is that it's parents' responsibility to educate and inform young boys and young girls. And now what that involves is being savvy with tech, because I think that series showed that these things weren't happening necessarily face to face in the classroom. They were happening on social media and mobile phones.
There's one thing you talked about there, important television. And honestly, I remember I was watching something leading up to the British general election, and it was Richard Osman talking about how important shows like Loose Women are, because politicians are terrified of you. Because you're not going to ask them about policy. You're going to go in and ask them about, but why don't you really ask these questions that politicians, and they're like, oh no, I don't want to be a real person. You've been on that panel for you've been involved in all of that stuff. There was news that it's going down to about 30 weeks. How is everybody doing?
Yeah, it's such a brilliant program, and it's one that I'm so proud to be part of, because we're very unique, talking about this taking up space and age and beauty. We're one of the few mainstream shows that has such a wide range of women. I think the youngest Loose Women panelist is in her 20s and the eldest is in her 80s. So that's an absolute cause for celebration. I think in terms of talking about the cuts, it's the people behind the scenes that make the show. I'm sure it's the same for you on your show. It wouldn't be anything without this amazing production crew. And they work there full time, and they are affected by those cuts. So my thoughts are with them and the changes that they're going through. For me, I'm self-employed, so I do work on Loose Women a couple of days a month. And then obviously, as you know, I have my books, my publishing, I work in documentaries. Recently, I made a documentary series in a women's prison called Locked Up in Louisiana, which is available to stream on UNW. So I'm very fortunate that I've always kind of been passion-led in my projects and worked across various different channels and books.
Jason Mansford just popped up on the screen there.
He's coming on the show very shortly as well, so that we don't even need to promo that anymore. Isn't that amazing? That's the way it happens on television these days. Listen, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Congratulations on your book. Congratulations on everything you're doing. Amazing ambassador and doing such amazing work as well. The new book, of course, is called Still Beautiful.
Oh, she's gone. She couldn't be bothered listening to your outro there.
And you're still beautiful. There you have it.
Thank you, Katie.
Right, well, guess who's coming up very shortly, but coming up after the break.
He just kicked Katie out of the Zoom.
We're going to be talking about the biggest new books after the break, and then Jason might come join us.
We'll talk to you in a minute.